Well, welcome back to Truth Be Told. I'm Tony Sweet, and today's guest is a former Marine jet pilot, a filmmaker, and author of an explosive new book called Hush. MD Selig. During Desert Storm, Selig witnessed firsthand how what he saw in the sky, what he read in top secret intelligence, and what the public was told on many news outlets never matched up. That discovery launched him into years of deep research into UFOs, covert operations, alien races, and the hidden mechanism shaping our world. In this episode, Selig reveals how he believes humanity has been influenced by advanced beings for decades, why malevolent forces are losing their grip, and what sources say could happen by 2027. We explore telepathy, consciousness, psychological manipulation, and the rising new Earth, which he believes is already in motion. If you've ever felt like we're on the edge of something big, this conversation may confirm it. Well, let's dive in. I'm Tony Sweet with Truth Be Told. Please welcome to the Truth Be Told studios for the first time, author, former Marine jet pilot, filmmaker, MD Selig. Well, from the seas to the land. So we have MD Selig here. Is it Selig?
Correct.
Perfect. I loved it. I'm sure you get a misspelling once in a while.
It's all good.
Well, I'm excited to have you here. With Truth Be Told, we talk about so many different things, and this amazing book that you have out, Hush, kind of fits the narrative of Truth Be Told. Has a little bit of everything from controversy to conspiracy to UFOs to the deep state. And I kind of want to dive in to talk a little bit about your military experience, because I think people that are entrenched in the UFO world and even ghosts, most people have experienced something to get them motivated to do more research, to write books. Mm-hmm. So let's dive in and say, MD, what is your military experiences for the people that may not have heard about you, and how it can tie into Hush?
You bet. So the concise version is I came out of college with a history degree from the University of Arkansas. I went right into flight training for the Marines, which is essentially Navy flight training. So you go to Pensacola and you're basically with Navy guys for, in my case, about the next 2 years of jet training. I was selected for jets. Wow. And then eventually, depending on your jet training and what the billets they need to fill for when you're graduating, you then, I went through carrier training, obviously, because I'm going through Navy flight training. So I learned how to land on aircraft carriers in an old jet now called the A4 Skyhawk, which a lot of folks will still be familiar with. And then was selected to fly A6 Intruders, which is a 2-seat attack jet. And it's also an all-weather attack jet. So I flew that in Desert Storm. Wow. My squadron was basically right when I got to my gun squadron in 1990, which was in Cherry Point, North Carolina, a Marine gun squadron. It just means the main squadron that you're going to go actually perform your pilot duties. My squadron was sent overseas. We then were the last squadron to arrive at the Desert Storm operation in 1991. We arrived early January, and I think the war started January 11th. And from there, it was just a function for me, and this I'll conclude this with how I got to Hush and writing the novel. I was flying missions, so I knew what I was doing on my own, obviously, and then I would come back, and at that time, I was the squadron intelligence officer, so I was reading all the top secret traffic that was coming through, not only for our squadron, but worldwide. So intelligence officers for all squadrons are reading what's coming through, and sometimes it's sent directly to your squadron for whatever reason, but I was reading all the traffic because of the war that I was participating in. And then I was going to dinner at night in the officers' mess hall, which was just like think of a small Costco. It's just a big warehouse and long tables, but we had a huge big screen TV of all things in 1991 with CNN on it. So I'm getting three kind of antennas. I'm getting the antenna of what I'm doing, physically flying these combat missions. I'm reading the top secret traffic coming through, not only for our squadron, but worldwide. So I'm trying to piece this together, like, why is none of this traffic mentioning what I'm doing?
Right.
And then I'm watching CNN, and none of that is making sense. It's not concurring. None of the three antennas were concurring. So I just had a sense then that there was a bigger mechanism happening.
Wow.
Fast forward to, I finished my tour as a pilot, which is an 8-year tour. You have to stay in longer as a pilot because they've spent so much money training you. So I did my 8-year tour. I got out and went immediately to LA. But I've always been writing, so I've been a storyteller. I knew I was going to go into film and music after flying. I love the flying, but I didn't want to just go fly commercial jets. It's like going from a race car to a bus. I couldn't do that. And so I went to LA and began writing and directing and producing. I had a show called Southern Justice that was on Netflix and Showtime in 2006. My current sci-fi pilot is on Amazon Prime. It's called The Gunrunner Billy Kane. But I also wrote for other production companies. So I would get hired because they liked my writing. I was acting. I was in like Zero Dark 30. So I was just doing anything to do with storytelling. And about 4 years ago, I realized, I now have enough information from studying, because the whole thing that had occurred during the war just ate at me. Like, there is something.
So it lived on in your soul.
It lived on. There was something. I just knew a bigger mechanism was twisting the world. I just knew it wasn't the American government or the American military. It just everything that was hitting me felt like it was like a bigger mechanism and a darker mechanism. And so in pursuing everything that I could, I started to get into covert events like Roswell. So Hush is essentially, I'm telling it from a fictional standpoint, but your listeners can pretty much, if they study alien history at all, whether it's Roswell or alien events from abductions to the secret space program to just all of it, they'll find that it's pretty intensely researched. I'm an insane, my friends will tell you, like, just stay away from him when he's researching because he's nuts. Like, I pull it from every angle. I go to every interview. I go to every book. I go to every video I can find before a scene kind of develops. And then once it develops, I splat it on the page. And so Hush is your covert history from about 1940 up through Roswell into the mid-50s, where Eisenhower is taking office.
And so I'm sure that's going to leave open for many books afterwards. There's a lot of years in between. Well, your book does open up with a very eerie sense that something unseen is manipulating events that behind the scenes. And like you said, you've seen it. You saw the differences. If you had to describe the first warning sign humanity is missing right now, the one hidden in plain sight, what would you say it would be?
That's a great question. Let me sit with that for a split second.
Fine with me.
Okay. Okay. Here comes both barrels. You have aliens all around you, and America has been in space. Not America like the government. I should say the world has been in space since the mid-50s. We have fleets in space. You literally have aliens walking among us within the Earth, everywhere. And there are alien races watching what's unfolding right now. And the final thing I'll say is, by 2027, I'm pretty sure from all my sources, you will have a contact event that is coming. Nothing to fear at all.
Yeah.
But that's what's occurring.
Well, here, I always said this. If aliens, extraterrestrials from many different galaxies and universes and planets wanted to take us over, why not 200 years ago when we had, or 1,000 years, when we had no type of weapons that could even attempt to compete with them. So I feel like if, when I hear people say, oh, they could come and take it, I'm like, they would have taken us over a long time ago.
That's exactly right, Tony. And the kind of short answer to all that is they don't want to take us over. They want to use us for our capabilities. They want us alive, but they also, and I'm only referring to the malevolent alien group that has kind of set all this up. I'll name them the Draco reptilians. They were here before we evolved on the planet. They knew we were evolving on the planet, and they wanted to control us from the get-go. They are still here, but they're kind of having to leave now because of what's occurring, not only with the planet, but with help from some benevolent races that are around us, the literal frequency of Earth. So I call her Sophia. Other people call her Gaia. It doesn't matter. She's rising. She's blooming. And what's occurring is, because of her vibrational frequency rising, the malevolent entities that are here literally can't physically stay in that frequency. They have to depart. So by 2027, there may be a last grasp attempt by the malevolent aliens to take what they can. I'm just saying, stay with your heart.
Yeah.
Don't use your head when you're confronted with things. You'll be fine. There's absolutely nothing to worry about. You are a multidimensional being made of love. You have nothing to worry about. You are literally more powerful than any. The advanced aliens will say, you guys are complete royalty. Like, your capabilities are beyond all other races. We're that incredible as humans, literally coming from love. That's it.
In fact, I work with. I produce a podcast called Shar Vision. She's a psychic, and she's been doing her psychic abilities for over 50 years. She's in her 70s now. And she never really touched on UFOs or extraterrestrials until the last about 5 to 6 months. And she says, I do not know why, but I feel there's a new Earth coming. I feel it already happening. And I feel, she goes, things will get a little rocky, but in the end, it'll be fine. And I've worked with her for 10 years, and I've never heard her talk like this before. And she says this is what she's getting now. This is what her visions, her communication is from these aliens saying it's going to be fine. And this is the new beginning for us. So, it's kind of what you're saying. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah. She's exactly right. And she's getting that information from sources that you and I can't define. It doesn't mean that it's not true.
Right.
But I can tell you that she's not the only one.
Yeah.
That it's coming from the plethora of races, benevolent races that are here watching this unfold.
In your earlier chapters, there are some very strong undercurrent of psychological manipulation and unseen influences. What inspired you to explore the idea that our thoughts and decisions might not truly be ours?
Sure. So I was trying to figure out, number one, and this is, if you read Hush or listen to the Audible, you're basically experiencing my experience through my protagonist, who's a female physicist.
Wow.
But it's her coming to realize, oh my goodness, I've been deceived my entire life. Like there are things all around me that are beyond human science, but I could never acknowledge them. And I've always told those things weren't real. But then she's confronted with something that she just can't deny. And then as the story unfolds, she very quickly learns that, oh my goodness, there's this whole other actuality around me. So what occurred for me personally in starting to really heavily research the alien presence thing from the 40s, I started to have that feeling of, my goodness, I've been taken, and I'm a pretty smart fella, and I have been completely, I got yanked, and you go through the 5 stages of grief. For first, once you start to realize what might be actually around you, which certainly in Hush, you're going to find out a lot of what's actually around you. But I'll tell you this, I touched the surface in Hush. I am telling you, what's around you is exciting. It's very complex. Your actual, I'm just saying, this is my call on this. What's around you is perhaps much more complex than you can even imagine, but wow, in wonderful ways. And we're essentially being welcomed to the galactic community, and it's happening most likely in the next 2 years. It's an exciting time. There's nothing to fear, but I will say, make sure that you start going inside, because the races that are here communicate not through this, through this. They communicate when you open your heart to love. All I can say is get quiet each day, turn off your technology for 5 or 10 minutes, light your little piece of sage, create your little ritual, and open your heart. Wild stuff, wild, wonderful stuff is happening. But if you want to step into who you are and really find out just scratching the surface of your capabilities, try going inside. Turn off CNN. Turn off all of the news. Turn off all of the things that you think are informing you, because that's here, and I'll promise you it's incorrect. It's someone else's narrative.
In fact, I was going to ask a question about that, because I feel that we've been lied to about our history, not only in America. I mean, even when we were kids, I'm 50, I'll be 56 in a couple days. So learning about, Native Americans and certain things have happened in our past that, many want to deny, and a lot of our leaders don't want us to know the truth. And it goes clear back to thousands of years ago, even when religion started, and probably even before that in Egypt, where, the pharaohs were lying to the slaves. And probably even before that with Anunnakis and so many different things.
Right, exactly.
But what you're mentioning about, if you use this, there's several passages in the book that hint manipulation through emotion, memory, and subconscious influence. Did you research psychological operations or MK Ultra type programs while writing this? Because it seems, I was going to say, it seemed like it very similar.
Yeah, so the writing of the book was 3 years.
Wow.
Most of that for me, because I'm a pretty fast writer. When scenes start to come, they'll splat out. I kind of vomit them on the page, and then I have to walk away and listen to it, and then start maybe doing some editing. But for the way I write is I have to research kind of insanely to where I start to see, if I'm researching, say, a Roswell, and I'm researching a piece of Roswell, let's say the first contact event at Monday at 1700 hours on July 7th, 1947, when some aliens are brought in on litters. Four were dead, one was alive, in front of Colonel Blanchard, who was the base commander at the time. And literally America is having its... In this case, it would be the second contact event, but it was the first contact event for these Army individuals. When I research something like that, I have to have so much information before the scene starts to form inside of me of how I'm going to write that scene, because I want to write it usually from a first-person perspective of who might be in the room. So in this case, one of my characters is in Hangar P3, which is also called Hangar 84, at 5 p.m. on July 7th, 1947, when these 5 stretchers are brought in. There's a video of it. You can go to my Patreon site and see the video footage. Yes, it's our first contact event at Roswell. But the reason I say that is I can only kind of get something on the page once I just have so much dynamic information that I can then go, okay, now it feels alive to me, and then I'll write it.
I love when so many people think that Roswell or these type of events haven't happened. I mean, if you think about 1947, when we recovered the aircraft or spacecraft, how our technology went and grew so fast. Within 10, 15, 20 years. It was almost unimaginable to think that human brains just said, oh yeah, we'll come up with this concept to enhance us by 10,000%. What is your thoughts on that when it comes to, as a pilot, to see our technology grow so fast after the Roswell event?
Right, that's right, Tony. The other thing to remember is you're pointing out the Roswell ships, and what I'm trying to say also is, remember, that's the ship that in this case it's 3 alien ships crashed that weekend,
right,
from 2 different alien races. But just remember, that's only at Roswell. There were many other recoveries prior to Roswell, like Cape Girardeau in 1941, the Battle of L.A. in 42, where we got 2 saucers, one in the ocean and one at San Bernardino. So these reversed technology studies have been going on, I mean, for long before Roswell. And you're right, all of that technology has come forward. So when you have, lights inside of wires, that's all from those ships. When you have nuclear generators that create a TR-3B from Grumman in 1960, that's reverse engineered technology. Yeah. The TR-3B has been flying daily from McCord, Area 51 daily to the Lunar Operations Command since the early 60s. I'm telling you, all of that technology is from crashed alien ships that have been reverse engineered, and we can't even reverse engineer them. So the TR-3B is not what I call a living conveyance. It's not as advanced as the alien ships that arrived and landed. Those ships are brainwave connected to their pilots. The pilots literally put their hands in like an impression, and they're brainwave connected. So if you're not the pilot for that ship and you put your hands in there, nothing's going to happen. The ship literally knows who you are. It's created from nuclear molecular nanotechnology. It's half human, half biological, half machine, and it literally, these advanced alien races fly their ships via brainwave connection. And many of the secret space program personnel have watched this in person. Like, that's the way the really advanced races do it. And so, yes, we have taken the best parts of that technology that we can at least understand and created some ships that we're clearly off planet and have been for many years, but our ships are still, we're still catching up technology wise.
One thing or two things that I find difference in between extraterrestrials, at least in 2025 and before, with this new world, as Char would call it. Well, one big difference is we may be able to maybe not catch up to their technology, but we've enhanced ours. But it's the mental. It's not even our connection through our mind. Like you said, not being able to communicate just verbally, but through our mind. With this new world and your research that you've done with Hush, when do we develop this telepathy more, right? Not just verbal, because that's one of the biggest things. Like you said, that ship was connected to that pilot. Right.
So I talked about, as you go inside, you are literally, when you allow the heart to start, because what we've forgotten as humans, this is again from all my research and from my own personal experience, the more I get out of this and I open this, I notice things come. I won't try to describe what comes, but I can promise you this. It's accessible to everyone. Telepathy has to do with raising your vibrational frequency. Aliens that use telepathy will be able to communicate with you. You don't have to learn it. There's nothing to learn. It's about this, getting out of this, and all humans have the capability. It is something that will kind of naturally occur in what's coming right away here.
Kind of like we probably used to have 3 fingers, and evolution end up making us have 5. I want to talk about deep state, because that was an early theme in your book. And I want to know how much of, in your book, Hush, is fiction, and how much was influenced by real-world classified programs and historical cover-ups.
Sure. So, like I said, I write from a fictional standpoint because I find really good story is more compelling to read. If I'm reading a story that's just hard facts and an author trying to boost those facts and say, I know this is a fact, it gets a little dry. So my background is writing screenplays, right, which have to be kind of rich and full, and they're generally fiction, right, almost always, unless it's a documentary. And even then, you're still writing fiction based on fact. So I find that if I can write a fictional story that is based on literally the best factual evidence that I can find, then I'm able to write details that anybody who knows about those covert events, say Cape Girardeau or Roswell or any of that stuff, they're going to go, oh my gosh, he's naming Mac Brazel in the story. He's naming Eisenhower, and Eisenhower's in an armed convoy and doing this, and wow, this is interesting. And here's what Ike's thinking in the story, right? So I'm getting into the first person of historical characters, but I'm obviously having to write what I'm thinking Eisenhower might be feeling on his way to meet his first alien, right? And so, but I can tell you that if you research enough about any individual, right? If you research Eisenhower or Ronald Reagan or you know, whoever you want to, you start to have a sense of them as a human, kind of the way their emotions roll. You know that if you're around Frank Sinatra, he had a mobster side, right? He could get really violent, but he could also be an amazing crooner and singer, right? So you can research somebody enough to pretty well write kind of roughly what they may have done in any given instance, right? Because you've read about their friends and the way they said, oh, Frank would just throw pie plates across the room and he'd get a baseball bat out and just break stuff when he was mad, you know, and you're like, okay, now that's significant. Most people don't do that, you know, but he was Frank Sinatra, right? So, and I'm not saying Frank's bad or good. What I'm saying is that the research for any individual, especially if they're historical, there are so many side people to, let's say, Eisenhower. There's so many assistants and stuff who write about him that pretty soon you have a pretty good sense of, like, this is kind of that character and I can write him now, right? So that's been my experience. Is you can really, if you're reading Hush, you're going to have a pretty good idea. If I wrote it anyway, I can't write it until I feel that character before I can write them, before I can get into their head. And as you're reading in the book, you're hearing and reading the thoughts of Eisenhower as he's about to land at Roswell, and he knows he's about to see an alien. And so, and I don't want to give too much from the book away, but you'll have a very good sense of, like, yeah, wow, 1947, this is all new to everybody. And he's not even the president at that point. He's working for Harry Truman in 1947. So, you know, he's already the Supreme Allied Commander. He's finished the war in 45. The atomic bomb has gone off, and he's now going to an event that no one's ever been to. He's going to meet a live alien. Like, oh my goodness, right? In secret, complete secrecy. So
that's pretty amazing. I wish they recorded something like that. I'm sure maybe they did, but you know, I'm sure the film is beyond classified if that exists.
One of these days, maybe we'll be lucky enough they'll open the Alien Museum. I doubt it, but one of these days, maybe we'll get to see some of that footage.
I know in your book there was a repeated sense of, like, signals, frequencies, coded cues that affected some of the characters, or maybe majority of the characters. But was this inspired by real science or just possibilities?
Yeah, so from what I understand from research, this is not only from secret space program personnel who have been out, you know, interacting with aliens, but from abductees who have been, you know, who have told about their encounters. There's just volumes of information from so many people who have been either abducted or had encounters with aliens or been in space with aliens, as many Americans and worldwide space program personnel have been. They will all tell you that the aliens will basically say every person is a sound and a frequency. So you're a frequency and a color, and the frequency can be thought of as a sound. Like the frequency can be so detailed that they can track any entity anywhere in the multiverse. So it's that defined, and that's a known thing within the multiverse, that anybody can be tracked anywhere because they have it's just like, think of yourself as a decimal out to the billionth degree, that your individual consciousness is that defined by all the super advanced races. They can track anyone anywhere. And so in the book, I try to allude to how, in this case, the cabal can find somebody, or an alien group can find somebody. Maybe they're tracking an individual that they keep abducting, and one of the characters maybe says, how can they keep finding her? And that has to do with the frequency and color of each individual that they can track anywhere in the multiverse. It's not a gigantic thing for them. It's like, we now have, technologies that allow us to track any individual, especially if they're carrying electronics, right? But take it to the next level. When we're more advanced, we'll literally be able to track them via their consciousness, via frequency and color and sound.
That's pretty amazing. I did remember one character, like I said, and I'm curious, before I talk about him, these characters, are they all based on people that you knew, or did you make majority of these up? Because I wanted to. So
if they're that's a good question. If they're a historical character like Eisenhower, obviously I didn't know Eisenhower, but those are heavily researched. If it's a character that I bring in that you don't recognize the name, that's a character that I've made up that fills that particular role.
Got it.
So I won't give away too much of the book, but there's a character in the book who began the Navajo Code Talkers. He was an Army officer. He was a white guy and grew up on the Navajo reservation, learning to speak Navajo as a kid. He then had the idea, when the war started, that he approached a general and said, hey, you're looking for code that can be used in the battlefield that the enemy cannot decipher. I can speak Navajo, and because there's no written alphabet, if I'll say a few lines for you, and if you like it, we can start a code talkers group called the Navajo Code Talkers, which was eventually formed. It was considered one of the big successes that helped us win the war, and it remained a secret operation until 10 years after the war, because there is no written alphabet of Navajo. So you have to learn to speak it. And so the Navajo Code Talkers were formed, and they could be on the battlefield and send out signals saying the enemy is doing this, that, and the other, and the enemy could not decode that ever. And that helped us with the Japanese and the Germans, and just the Navajo Code Talkers became a thing. So that's one of the characters in my book that you'll find. It was kind of fun.
No, I remember watching a documentary about that, and I found it so fascinating that how important it was that we...
Right, because we broke the Japanese code. So once you break the code, we knew the Japanese movements before they made their moves during the war. So we had broken the Japanese code, and that allowed us to defeat them in so many venues, because we knew what their next movement was going to be, right? But if you can keep it, hidden, then you have so much more advantage, right?
As most people that are watching, if you're not watching, you're listening on our Apple and all the other outlets. You can kind of see behind me it looks like the Statue of Liberty. I want to ask you about that. I want to ask you, Statue of Liberty is a national symbolism, and it's kind of curious to why you decided to use this as the cover of the book.
Sure. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we as, and again, this is just as Americans, and I'll first say that the overall bend that I have about this covert group that controls the planet is above America. It's above all governments, British, everything else. This is a group of, it's the Draco Reptilian, that is an alien group that literally has run the planet since before we evolved, and they still do. But what I'm getting at with the cover of Hush is there are also individuals involved in our particular government that are aligned with and help with the evolution of controlling the American population. To give you an idea, you're never going to get anything from the congressional hearings. If you're looking for some kind of disclosure on American television, on CNN, they're not going to say, hey, next week on 8th Street, we're going to open the Alien Museum and you're going to get to see ships and aliens alive and dead, and here it comes. That's not going to happen. And why wouldn't that happen? There's no agenda for all of these groups who have been working in secret, including, every military contractor out there, from Lockheed Martin to Grumman to everybody else who's been reverse engineering projects. They don't have any stake in the game to come forward and say, hey, America, we're really sorry. We've been working on these ships since the 40s, right, and we didn't want to tell you, because that's they have been paid trillions and millions, and they're off planet working on other solar systems. I mean, these are worldwide military contractors who have been given basically what's called secret access programs like the B-2, but their programs are the unacknowledged special access programs called USAPs, meaning you don't know about them, but they've been in operation since the 40s, building the TR-3Bs, building all of the stuff that's reverse engineered, and it's been going off planet and used in our secret space program. There is no incentive. They could care less about America or about the world. They are making a fortune and continue to make a fortune. They could care less about what any American thinks. So I'm just saying, if you're looking for disclosure from Congress, set your sights much higher. It's not the American government. It's not any particular government. However, there are individuals within the American government who are kind of the mouthpieces for what I call the cabal, this group that's above all governments, because you have to have operatives within each government to control that particular populace. So when I put the Statue of Liberty on there, and she's a little bit decrepit, and she's, she has that look of, it's kind of gone awry. Well, unfortunately, there are people who are willing to do what you and I might consider not the right thing for our country, and those people who are doing those things are controlled by these much higher mechanisms that they're told to say what they say. I'll give you an example. About 2 or 3 years ago, remember, we had all the UAP stuff coming off the carriers, and they're showing videos, and oh my goodness, and everybody thinks, oh wow, we're about to get disclosure. This is great. It's all coming forward. Now, fast forward 2 or 3 years, where did it all go?
It's kind of disappointing.
It all went away because it's the narrative they want to keep messing with you with. They're going to push, they play both sides, and they just keep you spinning, and you just think you're going to get disclosure, and then you get nothing.
Yeah.
You don't even know about those UAPs. You don't even have the original footage. That footage was blurred.
That's
so what I'm trying.
You wonder,
so I'm just saying
this day and age.
You're looking in the wrong direction if you're looking at congressional hearings at all to give you disclosure. It's not going to occur. Disclosure is going to be individual for each person, but I can tell you this: there's a ton of stuff out there that you can find out on your own, and very quickly, within the next 2 or so years, I believe you're actually going to have a contact event and disclosures coming, kind of whether you want it or not.
I mean, you're a great storyteller. That's why I understand how you're a great writer and screenwriter and putting things together. You just...
That's very nice, Tony.
No, it's true. Nice I always say, when you can imagine sitting down and listen to your dad or grandpa tell stories and you're sit there the whole time they speak, that's when you know it's a good storyteller. So I appreciate that. I feel like many of us feel like our leaders, world leaders, or puppets, and you had talked about that, and I think now people are starting to go, who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, and and I always think these people that want all this money and power, it's what do you do with it? I'm trying to figure out, what do you do with that much power and money, and is it going to fit with the extraterrestrials' existence, or do the extraterrestrials, they're like, we don't want these people of power, we want the normal folk that are opening up their hearts, are opening up their minds. What is your thoughts on the hunger for the power, and how does it work with the disclosure that hopefully is coming in 2 years?
Right. So I always try to remember that no villain considers themselves a villain, right?
True.
So we're all in our own relative level. So if I'm let's just say I run a distribution company for, let's say, Walmart, and I happen to be an independent contractor, so I'm making pretty good money doing that.
Right.
What do I get off on? I get off on getting another client that I can have my trucks deliver to, and that's fun, and I'm making more money, and that feels good, and that's just the way I roll, right? So when you're an Elon Musk, or let's say you're a Rothschild, or you're a Rockefeller, what do you have fun with? You have fun with owning every friggin' bank on the planet. And if you don't own it, how are you going to own it? Right. And that's fun for you, right? So I don't look at any of these characters per se and go, oh, that person's evil or this, that, and the other. I know a lot of people like to get on the hate train, but I think you have to understand that when you sit in situation where you own 90% of the shares in the room and everyone's talking about, we're about to go to colonize the space station right off of Jupiter, which is there, or we're going to go have some meetings there. Well, we can only really take 6 representatives, but there's 30 people at the table. Well, if you're Elon Musk, you're probably one of the 6 that gets to go. That's fun. You know, if you're Elon Musk, that's fun. You get to go, and you get to make deals for the planet, for the Earth, and maybe a Rockefeller's there, and a Rothschild, and you know, the King of England. My point is that I don't think those folks see themselves as villains. They're just like, look, this is what I do. I roll. I know how to sit at a table. I know how to get things done. I know how, if we want to mine a planet that's a moon of Jupiter or a moon in another solar system, I'm a good person to negotiate that deal with an alien race. That's who they are, right? And I'm not saying they're evil or good. It's not my place to say that. What I'm saying is, you just have to understand that just as Earth is complex. Think of all our races, all of our factions. Think of the Saudis. Think of the Americans. Think of the British. We all do deals. What are we doing deals for? Commerce. Because our country grows if we can buy for pennies on the dollar something made by Britain that's cheaper to make in Britain than it is here. So we'll offer them a deal. Like, we'll give you a TR-3B that might be 10 years old, but we'll give you one if you'll give us something you got from the aliens, right? It's all about commerce and trade and upping the ante of who you are and what power you can control. And you know, in the best of worlds with humanity, our leaders will be thinking about how is this going to kill poverty? How is this going to help everybody have the right medical tables here that can literally solve most, if not all, of our medical issues, that Big Pharma finally goes away because none of the other alien races have that.
Right.
Okay. So my point is that at the biggest levels, when you're talking about the Elon Musks of the world, you know about his stuff of maybe taking a rocket ship to Mars. What you're not aware of, and this is what I say by disclosure, is not going to happen for you in that way. Elon Musk is providing tons of military space vehicles and is trading in all kinds of space oddities. And I'll just tell you this, our biggest exports from our planet, now this is the secret space program personnel who are out there involved in the trading process, are saying the three biggest are military technology. That's exporting, because we make pretty amazing military technology. We have learned a lot from the aliens, but what humans do is they take it to the next level. The second commodity that is our biggest is beer. Now, this sounds funny, but let me give you an example.
Yeah, do.
Alien races. Just think about this. A lot of them are kind of satisfied with the basic thing. Aliens like to have a beer, so they'll make a beer, but they never update it. They'll make a beer and it goes out to their populace, and the populace is like, this is great, we got a beer. But then all of a sudden they get an American beer, but or a human beer, it's a French beer, whatever. The point is, it's a beer from Earth. But what do humans do? We brew a beer, and then we're like, oh, wait, I can brew a Rasputin stout, chocolate stout, or a peanut butter stout. And that goes out on the inner space trade routes, and suddenly every planet's like, oh, we like the chocolate stout from Earth, right? It's a real thing. It is our second largest export in space. That's what we are. We are creative. We never stop going, I can make this slingshot better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Humans are incredible in so many ways. And one of the ways that we're learning, that the secret space program personnel will tell you, and that everyone who's involved in the space of researching what we already do, the technology that we have advanced even to now is very quickly our weapons, our stuff that's now being used out in space, on our ships, on our fleets in space, is approaching some of the best technology out there, because we keep upping the ante, because that's who we are. We don't stop when we get a half-tasting beer and go, well, it makes me feel good and I'm done. No, we create another beer that's better. We do the same thing with military technology. We figure out a laser from a alien race, then we go, okay, we know how the laser works. Let's up the ante. Alien races don't necessarily do that. They find something that works and they'll use it for millennia.
Yeah.
We're not like that. And that's one of the other amazing things about us, not just with military technology. We're just creative individuals beyond being multidimensional, which we are.
No, I agree with you. I'm the same way. As an entrepreneur, as somebody that's always, they say ADD, I always say, well, what can I do better? How do I improve this? And I've surprised myself many times on what I can create. And back last night, I was in the kitchen. I thought, I like these muffins, but how do I? And so I
add a little garlic.
Yeah, right, right. It wasn't so good, but no, I agree what you say. It might not,
right?
Unless you like garlic. But I agree. I agree. Humans are very creative with art and many different technologies, and just how we enhance everything.
My latest sources are saying that basically in 1,000 years, we will literally be, if not the best, we'll be at the very top of the technology realm. Now, I'm not saying technology is the bomb.
Right.
I'm saying this right here is the bomb. This is our superpower. I'll promise you that. Just like you go to an electronics store and you're bewildered for a while because it's so awesome and there's so many cool things, but eventually you go home and you realize, having all those electronics is fun, but when I go inside, that's where I find the ultimate contentment, the ultimate satisfaction, when you quit looking out for something. Technology is an out thing. It can save you in space. It can protect you. It can give you some advantages. But this, at the end of the day, the ships in space that are run by advanced races are being run from heart. And they are the most powerful races in space. And we are on that trajectory. And I'm telling you, it's coming. And I'm just saying, find out that every one of us is a superhero in the sense of just find yourself as love in here. Get away from technology each day at some point. I'll just say, I recommend 5 minutes. Just turn off your phones, turn off all technology, go to your quiet space, light a little sage, create a little ceremony for yourself as love, and get quiet. And don't try to open your head or get quiet here. Just get quiet and open your heart. And if you'll just do it, put that as your number one thing you do, I can tell you this. There will be molecular changes that you will tangibly feel. It's that powerful.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. I think that's a great place to stop because I definitely going to have you back, and so we can even talk more about the secret space program, because you seem like you have a lot of knowledge. But first, I want people to go pick up this book. Hush. Where do people find this book? I'm sure.
Sure. So they can find all the links on my website, mdselig.com. And then obviously the Audible version and all of that stuff is on Amazon. If you get the Audible version, you'll be able to hear the actual radio calls of the Malaysian flight, which I help identify the CIA hijackers on the flight. So you'll find some interesting stuff there. And all I can say is, if you do read the book, please give us a review, as we're all trying to get this information out, this disclosure type information. And if you give us a review, it moves us up in the Amazon algorithms, and that helps the book. I mean, it's doing well. Fortunately, everybody's really helping out with making it an international bestseller already. But it's the reviews that change for all humanity this thing that everyone needs to know, that is slowly coming out to the public.
Yeah, we want to go from here to this, to buy that book, get that book, because we want to keep it on the best selling. But MD, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. You're so great. You seem like you've taken classes on interviews, because you're very quick on your feet. Like you said, you're smart. So it's
been a pleasure to be here, Tony. Anytime we'll come back and have another discussion.
There's no question. So thank you. Everybody, please go out and pick up the book. Go to mdselig.com. And until next time, though, people, thank you so much for tuning in. And even for us, make sure you like, subscribe, leave reviews, leave comments, because like he said, it helps with our algorithms. And without you guys, we wouldn't be here every Friday for the last 16 years. So, but until next time, take care of yourself and each other.